That's empowering. So if I have all this knowledge and this wisdom inside of me and I don't share it with anybody, it doesn't do anything.
They're allowed 4 plants here in Toronto.
Yeah. So look at this garden. So it's very interesting how the laws are moving. And that's why I always tell people, go and look for yourself. Don't let nobody tell you winter and all that. That's all fun and games, but I'm over it. I'm ready to go forward and enjoy the ocean and 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 help out and contribute there where people are willing to accept my help and my contribution.
How bad does the winter get down there in New Mexico?
Oh, it gets kind of like over by you. Yeah, so I don't know how much that in Celsius, but I know that the nice thing about here is that the sun always comes out, so the snow melts.
Right.
Nevertheless, it can be brutal and it gets very like isolating because we're out in the countryside, and that can become hard. And the other part about it is that I want to expose my daughter to a little bit more than what here has to offer too, because we're a cultured people and here is great and here's been really grateful, and yeah, there's more. Like I've been here for almost 30 years now and I'm getting antsy, ready to
Yeah.
like to go forward down the road and just start spending time with my people, if you want to put it in those terms.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm feeling the same way too. It's not much longer before we get to that point where we completely in retirement mode.
Exactly, where we just want to walk around and help assist. And I realized that I have acquired some skills and knowledge that I see very beneficial, if one would say, in the Caribbean, not just Barbados, but St. Vincent or anywhere else where people are open to. And I don't even want to say new ideas because all this stuff has existed already. Just a refreshment of things that were put there already in, I could say, ancient times or modern times, whatever. It's just really to remind people that they have the ability to make that change in their lives themselves too. And when we decide that we are gonna work together, then we get further together. Like I
Yeah.
heard this these elders said this thing. One person can't do everything. Everyone can do something. So if we can get people to by giving them an example, because we can't convince anybody to do anything that they don't want to do, so we have to lead by giving the example, and then also for them to see the example actually working, because we live in such an instant gratification society that people tend to don't even have patience for a year 2 years 3 years 5 years, whatever, yet that time goes by. How many 5 years and 10 years have gone by in our lifetime already? So getting the people to realize that we have to invest now for us, but also for the generations to come. And if we want to make a change, we have to do for self and collaborate with each other, because we can point the finger at all these other people and all the noise and nonsense that's going on. Yet we need to be so established that it doesn't matter who's in power, that it doesn't even phase what we have going on.
I agree. I agree with that completely. I want to ask you something though, because going back to, you said we lead by example,
Yeah,
right? So we'll like the older days, growing up, older people, you'll see them doing certain things. So eventually you might not do it right away, but you get to it
right.
and you say you can copycat it and do
Yeah.
it, right? Don't you find it a little bit difficult these days with the younger folks though? Like it seems to me like they don't really completely pay attention to the things that we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like their heads are always down. They're in the phones a lot. You know what I mean?
And that is very true. So that's why the way to get them from that, it's to take them from it, not take it away from them. Take them out and adventure camps, take them to the garden, take them to the farms, take them and let them see how their food is produced. Because with children, and I learned from my own children, we can go like this all day long till our heads hurt. They are watching what we're doing. So it doesn't matter what comes out of our mouth, what we're doing, that's what they learn from. So then we have to take charge and create some examples where we get some of those children who perceivingly heads are down and take them out to the farm, Take them out to the countryside. Take
Yep.
them out to the sacred sites. Take them to places where they might feel uncomfortable, but then they realize there's so much that they're learning in that space. So we're having to figure out how to get groups of people, if one would say, off the beaten path. Because it's interesting to see how everybody used to talk about living off the grid, and it was so frowned upon. Now all these people are trying to live off the grid now, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing that people want to rent a tent and all kinds
Right.
of stuff.
Like I was just gonna put this shirt on, right? And this is a shirt that my son made,
Right.
and it's all ripped up just from bleach, a bleach tie dye. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take it off because it might sell for a bunch of money. So I'm gonna I like this is how we grew up in like ripped up shirts and holy
Yeah.
pants. Like meanwhile it's gonna sell for a bunch of money. See how this society is gone? So we're having to do it in a way where we encourage them because we are the ones with the phones in our hands. And I see it with my own daughter because she's smart as heck. Sometimes when she comes over, I throw the phone out my hand. Because next thing she and I are reading, even if we watch a movie, we're having conversations about the behavior in the movie, even though it's not real, because this is the programming that they're putting in front of everybody. So it's up to us as parents, as community leaders across the board to have these conversations with the next generation about the things that we're seeing happening. Because you know that they tell us don't do something. As soon as their back turned, what were we doing? The head thing they tell us don't do.
Yeah, you got that right.
So we have to find out a way of how to get the message across where we're not telling them don't do the thing, because as soon as our backs turn, they're going for it. And more of that is real education about the different outcomes of these different avenues of behavior. And I think that that's one way to approach it. And by like me, like saying leading by example, and that's why I want to go forward to the Caribbean. And whether they can accept it or take it in or not, I want to leave an example of how we can work together to make a difference in each other's lives. Because look at all the land that we have over there, but yet half, like you could say Prospect and Fitz Village, there's a bunch of people there starving.
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, you might not, people might not want to accept it, and they might say, well, that's not true because we're good, and they could be correct. But the question is, what about the food
Right.
state? Is the food
Right.
good? Because we're eating a lot of food that sets us up for destruction later on. It's not good food.
So they need.
If those words too harsh though, Bradley.
So maybe, and that's also where we need to figure out a way of how to. I don't want to say I guess re-educate or once again remind people. So because of the type of society we live in and the type of society we grew up in, we have to set the example without even looking at anybody to be like, oh, you want to come check this out? We're like, nope, this is what we're doing and we're going to do it whether you come check it out or not. But we make sure that we leave an example of betterment in one form or another.
I want to take this time right now to let you introduce yourself again, because I know I had you on when I first started doing podcasting a few years back, and I want to let you take this time to introduce yourself and let people know exactly who you are, what you're about, and what you're into. I think what you're doing is very intriguing. A lot of your stuff is very raw. And I think that it's a good opportunity for us to really get back to the ground, just to see, where we started and how we can actually improve our lives and our lifestyle. So go ahead and introduce yourself, man, and let people know.
My name is Bradley Babb. I'm from Barbados originally. I moved to America in 96, 97, and I got opportunity.
You sure is that far? That was much earlier than
No,
that, man.
96, 97 is when I actually was here. 95 is when the gentleman from Bike Magazine came down and did an article on myself and a couple other people for mountain bike racing. And that's how I got from Barbados to Durango, Colorado. And then when I got to Durango, Colorado, one thing led to the next. I started meeting farmers who was producing vegetables and herbs and stuff like that. And then some of them had their medical license and they were also producing medical cannabis also. Fast forward a little bit, I moved out of Colorado, moved to New Mexico, And then I got introduced to permaculture. And permaculture is basically, we could call it the science, but it's basically using the five kingdoms of nature, the five predominant kingdoms of nature, which is plants, animals, algae, bacteria, and fungus, and using those as an example of how we tailor our relationships with our spouses, our children, with our community, and how we set up our businesses, and how we even develop communities. So learning permaculture, it's really given me a keen eye on how to look at things from multiple angles, and it's also taught me to read patterns. So I'm very much into reading patterns, and that's how I'm able to identify what we can use to help solve some of these, if one would say, issues, or produce solutions to move forward, to help re-educate the people on the knowledge that's inside of them, and just reminding them like, hey, we have the ability to do for self, because we've been engineered to not trust each other and not work together. But the same people that's engineered us to do that, they're all working together. We say we can't trust nobody, yet we get in a plane, we don't even know the pilot, and the pilot's flying us. But yet we say we don't trust nobody. So we have to look at this thing at a broader scope, bigger than race and class and sex and all that, and look at it from a real human level. Because it doesn't matter where we are in the world. If something goes off over there, it's going to affect us here. So we have to stop thinking that we're separate, because I was told if we remove all the space in between all the matter, it could fit into all the matter could fit into a cube that was like 4 by 4. So for me, I've been really trying to inspire people to do better for themselves, because the biggest part of any journey is the first step. I'm working with a group of people in St. Vincent. They have medical cannabis there, and they are always asking me for supplies and stuff like that. And not that I don't want to give them, but what we are finding is most of the raw materials that comes over here and get processed, it actually comes from where we are from. So it's just really educating people on knowing what to identify and how to use the resources that they have in front of them. So for me, I'm very passionate about helping people, educating people, farming. I love to grow cannabis. I love growing food, and I love educating and sharing, and I love to feed people too, because I noticed that when you feed people, sometimes we don't even remember it, but years later that person has come back and be like, hey, you fed me when I was on my last and I was ready to give up, and you were the only person that turned and helped me. So we have to make an impact on a grand scale. And they say that if we want to clean up the world, we have to clean up our world first. So it's really getting
That's right.
people to realize, let's work together. Let's stop the unnecessary competition, because look, everybody competitive, and everybody's tired. All this competition, everybody's tired. So we have to figure out how to get off of this lower level vibration and come up to a more unity. And since we're children, we're hearing about unity. We have to figure out what your strengths are, what mines are, what our family, different people. And in permaculture, it taught me to put certain groups of people together according to their strengths. Because I own a business, I don't need to do everything in the business. Maybe I'm the one that's like
That's right.
producing the food. There's somebody else doing the accounting. There's somebody else actually processing this. There's somebody else cleaning the food. And then there's somebody going to the market to create the sales with the different vendors and stuff like that. So because we live in a society that has been perpetrated upon us, that I gotta be the boss, and everybody wants to be the boss, and that makes a lot of big headedness, and we don't get nowhere. And I don't always have to lead. I don't. Matter of fact, sometimes I don't want to lead. I want other people to lead. That way I can see their perspective rather than everybody just looking at my perspective. And that's how we'll encourage each other.
You know, a lot of the stuff that you say is very deep. I think it's very intriguing. I think a lot of times people don't always want to hear some of the things that other people have to say. For example, you said like people are asking for material for you, to send some material or whatever, right? And what you guys are finding is that a lot of the material is already there in places like you mentioned, St. Vincent. I don't know if you're working with other islands or if that's the predominant one that you got that
That's the
connection with.
first one I
Maybe
started.
they're more accessible. Okay, are they a lot more accessible? They're willing to work with you down
Yes, they
there.
are. They really are. And I feel very, I don't even know if honored is the word. I feel very excited, almost like a kid in a candy store, if you want to put it in those terms. Because when I showed up and I had all this information in literature, and the same thing happened in Barbados, and my hat is off to people in Barbados for that too. That when I showed up, I was a little hesitant because I didn't know how it was going to be received. But before I could blink twice, all the literature was out my hand and people were asking for more. So it shows that the people want it. We're just having to figure out how to organize and pull the ego out of things. And until we can really pull the ego out of this stuff, we're gonna be like butting heads all the time. And that's why for me, like I can say what I have to say and then I can step back. Because for me,
Right.
I have a lot of youth mentors. And that's something we need. I have a whole gang of guys and some girls who they're all younger than me. And I sit down, put my feet up, and I listen. I don't say a word. Like my son, I feel so honored and feel so fortunate when he's around me and we're like working on computer stuff and he's like, "Oh dad, you don't do it that way anymore. This is how you do it. Bam, bam, two buttons up, it's done." And I feel
Yeah.
like, wow, like I feel successful because they say like real success is when your children, "Hey, we're coming home for Christmas. We can't wait to see
Yeah.
you." If you
Yeah.
think about it, that's the real success. Like, because money and all this stuff falls away. But if you don't have these like love connections and deep connections with your children and your family, your life is, you feel empty. I don't care what nobody says.
And I gotta tell you, because a lot of times, like you can be so successful money wise that you can make the most money. And I'm telling you, if people don't believe what I'm saying, you just gotta take a trip down to the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah.
All right, you take a trip to the hospital or take a trip to the old people's homes, and as much and how successful they are, they're alone on that bed, sitting down with a lot of money in the bank account, with the people who are looking after them taking that money every week, the rent being paid every month or
Yep.
whatever, and yet nobody's coming to see
Right.
them, and that's how lonely
Right.
they are. You know what I mean? So, like, to what you're saying, exactly, you're absolutely
You
correct.
know, I was listening to One Giant Leap, it's called, and it's about these two gentlemen who went all around the world and they talked about life and death and love and sex and spirituality and they touched on everything. And on the soundtrack there's a clip where I think it's Mr. Rogers, where he says there was this group of people, they went around to all these different people all over, that they were getting ready to transition to the next realm. And it didn't matter if they had whatever they wanted in their life or they had nothing. They all said the same exact thing. They wish they had traveled more. They wish they had stayed with their in connection with their childhood friends. They wish they had shared love more, and they wish they had traveled around the world and helped people. Not one person said they wish they had worked harder. Not one, and it didn't matter.
That's amazing. What you just say is so striking because look, last weekend I went to a soccer game and these guys are old guys and they're like over
Yep.
50 but they're
Yep.
still running. And there's a guy from Grenada who I haven't seen in over 10 years, and when he saw me and I see him sitting down, he didn't recognize me at first, and I touch him and say, "What you doing playing football still?" And this guy get up, big hug, smiling. "Oh man, so happy to see you. Where's your brother? How you doing?" And that's the greatest thing for guys as you get
Right.
older. It's just to kind of like reach out
Connection.
and see those people you haven't seen in a long time.
Connection. It's so important and it's so overlooked in the society because we're supposed to be just tough and man, rah, and like,
But I want to ask you, because before you even go further than that, seeing that, and from my experience, because I don't know if you're aware, but Toronto is a very multicultural
okay,
city, and for me, I just often wonder. I just spent 2 months in Barbados this year, and I was like, "Yo, sometimes our people could be very cold." So I'm like, "Do you think that? Do you find that too, or you find that very warm. I mean, they're warm people, but sometimes could be very
Okay,
cold.
an experience, and it's very interesting. So I was there in 2018 with my son, my daughter's mom, my daughter, and me. So one evening we go to Oystins. Go in there and Sakai is on my back. I got her in a sling. She's on my back. We go there. We they gain food and all of a sudden, these people, like these women, came out and they started treating me like I was the help, and that my son, yeah, that my son and my daughter's mom was the couple, and I was hustling them because I got my daughter on my back. My own people. So there's an example. And they ushered us out of the sitting area, oysters, fish thing, they ushered us out of their space. And I got really upset. And I tried to explain it to my son and my daughter's mom, and they don't get it. And that's because they don't. And it's this thing that everybody's like, oh, it's just about race. You're always saying race. I was like, I didn't want to make it about race. They did. I'm experiencing the nonsense that they created. So I had to sit them both down and explain to them, look, here's an example of my own people treating me like I'm hustling them. And had not for me, neither of them would be there. So
But I mean, you're correct. I mean, it happens on so many different levels that you cannot even imagine. I can tell you stories on top of
right,
stories. I can go back and peel back and tell you my experiences coming from my point of view. But you're absolutely correct, and I gotta make it clear because maybe perhaps your son and your daughter are a little bit of a lighter
exactly,
complexion.
exactly,
So the mental training that we acquire growing up in Barbados, no one can take that
right,
away from us because it's already
right,
ingrained. So we're
right,
conditioned. We're so conditioned we don't even realize it until it's too late. So we are pretty much trained to serve a certain type of
right.
people, and in the eyes of our people, we don't see it until we step away from the island, step away for a good time, a good period of time, and then you get to see, observe our own
Yeah,
actions,
yeah,
right? And then you can make a judgment of, okay, what do you think? I mean, these are the
right,
facts. You may not have to accept them
right.
right away, but these are the
Exactly,
facts. Just look and you'll
exactly.
see.
So with that said, what I realized about that situation, I can let that discourage me, or I can take that and use that as energy to motivate me even more to make a change and to educate and to push through it. Because there was a time in my life where that would have beat me back and I would have felt defeated. And when I sat down and I meditated and I thought about it, I was like, okay, this is what I do with people. Sometimes they'll come at me sideways. I just avoid them. Sometimes I'll just look at them like, oh, wow, that's how you're behaving. And they catch themselves. And then sometimes I just take that energy and I'm like, okay, I'm going to switch it up and use it as motivation for me to keep going. Because I feel like sometimes they're seeing things about yourself that you can't see. And you're walking with this light that even though you know you're walking with the light, you still can't see it yourself, but other people can see it. So that's why sometimes it burns their eyes or they get attracted like moths. And that's the simplest way I can put it. And it took me a while to really like not get defeated by those types of things, but actually use them as motivation to push even harder.
So even all that being said and done, you're thinking it's time that you head back to the island soon. Give your daughter some
Yeah.
culture from how you were raised, and also
Yes.
teach and motivate some people on the island because times are
Right.
changing. Times are changing rapidly, man. There was a time when marijuana is still probably much illegal in the island of Barbados.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm not sure, but times are
Right.
changing. I mean, around the same people who made us um, make marijuana illegal, they have changed that tune quite a few years ago, and now now we are still stuck on this bad image, the devil, whatever it is about marijuana, the plant that comes from the earth. And the other people who were looking at the money part of it, which is we couldn't make money from this. People love it, so we are just going to make it illegal. But now we found a way that we can legalize it and capitalize on it. So now we're going to make it
Right.
legal, and no longer do anyone have to go in the corner and wait for the weed
Right.
man. Now we can just go straight to the
Right.
shop and just buy weed. Can you tell me a little bit about that, your experience? Because I know you're one of the if there's anyone I know who would be involved or be passionate about marijuana, I think you're the guy from my experience who would who would have some kind of passion about marijuana.
Yeah. So, cannabis has been used since ancient times. All these supposed scholars, when they went and excavate all their sites, they were using everything. It's a shame that it's been so demonized because, like you just said, because it's associated with brown people and brown people have helped themselves with it, yet the psychops is still there. So there's still a lot of people that are really scared, yet the thing is free up. And the people also don't realize how much power they have. But if we decide, okay, we're not going to support something for 2 weeks, it mash up, it done lick up. So, you know, I I think the thing that happened to me, coming from having to buy it and coming from having to hide and consume it and always risks of freedom, that when I came here and it was so much more freed up, I just told myself that I'm going to educate myself more about it. That way I have the tools to to help educate and teach people about the benefits of the consumption of cannabis, because it's highly beneficial. And I know people that has gotten off of all kind of opioids and all kinds of different hard substances using cannabis. Yet we know everything in moderation, because too much of one thing, this is not good for you. At the same time, like you're saying, they're telling us, hey, don't look over there, look over here. Meanwhile, they're over there like bringing the money in. So we have to stop being fooled.
I don't know if that's going to ever happen because um, the conditioning is so rapid that it'll take
Yes,
generations for that
right.
to
It'll
erase.
take at least five, they
And
say.
yes, and I find that the younger people are slowly erasing some of those conditioning because they're able to kind of like we've developed, maybe we've acquired a little bit of dollars or
Yeah,
whatever, so we're able to pass it on. Not everyone now is looking at death in a
right,
different way from our older
right,
people are saying, well, it's going to happen for sure, so maybe I'll put a will um, to leave something for the children, for the next generation. So after acquiring that money, whatever, then younger people can have a little bit of cushion where they can set up their lives and they can do better. So there's a lot of people who are starting out in this life with a little bit
yeah,
of cushion, and they don't have the same mental strain as maybe perhaps me or you did. So that's, I think that's one of the key benefits. So they have a little bit of cushion in life, so they're able to express themselves a little bit more
right.
open. A lot of times we don't say the things that we say because we're afraid of our it ruining our
Yeah,
finances, ruining
public credibility. Yeah.
exactly, right? So that's just pretty much it there. Younger people are a little bit more free to express themselves in ways that we've never been able to, and people before us.
Well, there's that thing called epigenetics, and epigenetics is things that are, excuse me, that are in our DNA from our ancestors. And they say on the low end, it could be 100 years that you're getting stuff from. On the high end, it could be up to 10,000 years that you're walking with these memories in this suit that we're carrying. So I see how a lot of the youth that are coming in, they're crystal, they're indigo. What is the other one? There's another one. There's a bunch of youth that are coming in, and they just don't have the patience for the nonsense because they can see right through the BS. So because they can see through it, they're very unmotivated by wanting to take part. So we have to create an atmosphere to get them intrigued. Something I will say, I have some different friends. One of them, he is loaded beyond recognition. He got some old English spice money. He still goes to work. He still goes to work. He works hard. And I think that that is part of it, because it's okay to leave the money and to give them the money, but it's very important to educate them on how to use the money, not just in a spending form, how to reinvest it and how to make the money work for them. Yet at the same time, I really feel like even if people are going to pass stuff down to their children, there should be a vein that those children have to go to work and do some little bit of hard labor to see what it takes to get these resources generated, because it doesn't matter what industry it is, somebody is out there doing some type of labor work to generate those resources. Even in the IT world, we got guys in there like stuck in front of the computer for hours at a time, having to work and get these things processed. So I see that it's really important to do that, because my friends that I know that are like that, they're very, one would say, very wholesome human beings. You know, they're very wholesome, and you can talk to them, you can have a really great conversation with them. They're not really caught up in race and all this bullshit that, excuse me, all this nonsense that we're being psych-popped on. So it's important. Education is important, flat out. And that's why for me, I realized that we were told we're supposed to go north, gather the knowledge, and bring it forward south. So this is my way of paying it forward to my community, my nation, my people, however you want to call it. I might not show up with a bunch of money and dollars in that way, but all the information and knowledge that I have in me that I can share to help better people's lives, here you go. It's all yours. So that's where I am. And it doesn't matter where I am. It's how I move. It's how I walk. It's how I am, because I got the chance to better my life. I got the chance to get away from strife. I got the chance to have a peace of mind. Like I sitting out here in his house all by myself, and not that, oh, that's something, but I actually got a chance to have a little space where I could think. So then I could formulate my thoughts better. So in that's why I am the way I am, about helping and making a difference in everybody's lives, but definitely my people's lives.
I want to ask you about that and where you are. Are there many people like you?
It's starting to happen. And when you say like me, you mean like my suit, the suit I walk
Yeah,
in?
the suit that you're wearing.
It's starting to happen. These two friends of mine, one is from Cameroon and the other one is from Guinea, and they are just getting ready to open up a club.
What kind of club?
Like a African club.
Dance club? Party?
Dance club, yeah, with music and food and stuff like that. And I'm looking at doing the reggae night, because I just want to play. Go ahead.
If there's not many people like you over there, people are still receptive to being at an African club and a reggae club, and
It's what the people want. Man, you play dancehall. You go to any place, put on some really good dancehall. I don't care who it is. People walking by are gonna be dancing. And I've had it out with a few DJs that they take it up like this and then they drop it. I'm like, no, keep it up. So the people are thirsting for culture, excuse me, because once again, we're told not to mess with each other. So when you tell children don't do something, what do? They go together. So we were told don't mess with the white girls. White girls told them don't mess with the brown boys, and what happened?
it happens.
It happens.
So you gotta be careful, be very mindful of what you teach and what you're saying to your kids.
Yes.
That's amazing. New Mexico, right?
Yeah. Santa Fe, the capital.
And it's popping like that.
Yeah.
Now,
oh yeah.
You said the capital, Santa Fe. So where you at with the dispensary and all that? Is that far away from where you are right now?
No, like if I wanted to, I could ride my bike to work. I could walk to work if I wanted to. It's not far at all. Maybe 2 miles, if so far.
And tell me a little bit about your work, because I I guess marijuana, is that legal in your state right now?
Yes, it's legal. So here's the process. It's legal. You can have a medical store. Like I have a medical card, and the medical card allows me to carry 2 pounds in my car in the back, as long as it's not open, as long as I'm not making a fool of myself, and now smell is not probable cause either. So that's one of the things that it's done, that like I can have my medicine with me and I don't have to freak out, as long as I'm not driving and smoking, which I don't, and it's in a container out of arm's reach. You're fine. And working at the dispensary, it's I think we have like 3 licenses in one facility, and that's a permaculture thing. So we have the recreational store, medical store, storefront. We have cultivation license, so we can produce plants and cultivate them there. And then we also have a manufacturing license. And the manufacturing license is not where we're using solvents or anything like that, but where we're able to make pre-rolls, we're able to make chocolates. If we have all the mixtures together, we're able to make drinks, we're able to make gummies, as long as we are not trying to do any solvents or any open flames. So we have those 3 licenses in that one building. And one of the ways that I had to get, one of the requirements for getting a job, interestingly enough, in those places, is that you have to pass a background check.
Okay.
I think that that's so, I think that that's, I don't even know what the word is, but I think that that's such an interesting thing, that the man, how the man, yeah, I don't even know what the words are, but just how you have to still get a federal background check to work in this thing that the feds are not really quite ready to free up. So whatever. So I got the background check. I passed all of that. And I handed him a resume. And my resume is pretty long, because I've done a lot of work, from building houses to irrigation to running grows to running processing rooms. I've done a bunch of different things. So I went in and he said to me, "What department you're interested in working in?" I said, "I want to work in cultivation and manufacturing. I don't mind working out front if I have to, but that's not where my brain is. I want to keep educating myself about cultivating, how to just cultivate plants better, cleaner, happier, healthier, least pesticides, for like all this stuff that potentially can affect people negatively, how to reduce the consumption of all of those in producing good quality cannabis." Excuse me. So my day, like tomorrow when I go into work, we're just going to be trimming all day. Like I was just trimming cannabis for the past 2 months, because the other thing we don't do, we don't machine trim our cannabis. We hand trim our cannabis. And by producing hand trim cannabis, you get a lot more properties staying with the flower. So then people have a better experience when they're looking for relief.
I thought it was interesting because, like I've seen, obviously trimming the weed, and
Yeah,
you know, in these times, there's a lot of people who probably won't have the patience to do something as tedious as a job like that. I mean,
right.
pretty much that's it. Some people might get bored, get discouraged, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's still something that you don't mind doing or you love doing. It's a job, and you're getting paid for it. And it seems like the thing that you're so excited about, you're kind of motivated about the industry of marijuana and the progress of our society, how we treat it. You mentioned earlier, one of the things that you can't do is have it open in the car.
Right.
Is that correct? So they're treating it the same way they treat
Alcohol. Correct.
At one point in our lives where it was illegal as well.
Right. So we're still having to follow those same parameters, and like even at work, we can't be like consuming at work or anything like that. We cannot be on the property consuming anything like that. The local state law says that if I am at work and I want to consume, which I think is very interesting. Your car is an extension of your house. It's like how you can have your weapons from your house in your car. Well, the state officials told my boss, because he's what is he? He's in a wheelchair, so he's a patient. They told him, "Hey, if you really need to consume, or anybody, Go sit in your car and consume it, which I think is very interesting because then at one point, the smell of the car was probable cause, but the smell is not probable cause anymore. So it's very interesting how the laws are moving. And that's why I always tell people, go and look for yourself. Don't let nobody tell you what's happening with the law and this here and that. You have to go look for yourself because everybody's going to have their opinion about what the law is doing, how the laws are changing. And until you go look for yourself, you're not going to know. So that's what I've done in different situations. I went and looked for myself and I try my best and follow those parameters. Every so often we get inspections. They could call us up tomorrow and be like, all right, we're going to be there in half an hour. And we have to have everything together, like everything, like straight. And then the other thing that people don't realize, and I think this is across the board, I know that there's some people who do, people don't realize what it takes to get that flour in that jar, in that bag, those gummies, those cookies. People don't realize what it takes to get that to that shelf for them. And I think that that is so overlooked because it's become commoditized. So then it gets like, oh, that's just a commodity, whatever. But yeah, if you're producing it for a commodity, you're not going to get medicine quality. So there's a difference in the market. There's commodities and there's medicine. And we are at a place where we are just wanting to produce medicine. That's the only thing about it for us, not a commodity.
I think you're gonna have to teach us a lot more about all those things when it comes to the business of marijuana, because I mean it's such a great business. It's spreading all over the world rapidly, just like how it spread it around the world when they were making it illegal. So now that they've legalized it, is just floating around. People are finding ways where they can capitalize on it, because what we didn't know when we were younger was that everyone smoked marijuana. Now we are realizing it doesn't matter for culture, sex, gender, whatever. It's just this. People do it all around the world. I want to ask you here about your bordering states. Are those bordering states have it legal too as well, or do you have to be very careful and mindful if you cross border? Sorry, not border. Bordering states. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So Arizona West, it's medical, if not far from legal. Colorado North, it's legal. And then Texas is trying to get on board, but you got those Bible thumpers, Christian Belt, whatever. They're trying to get on board. And then Oklahoma, it's legal too. And then Mexico, it's decriminalized. So I'm basically surrounded by states that the laws are a lot more relaxed. Nevertheless, if you're driving down the road making an ass of yourself, they'll still get you. So, like we were saying, it's like drinking alcohol. You still have to follow those parameters. And it's not legal to take it from one state to the next state, because the state line is federal.
So you say it's not legal to take it from one state to the next state?
I mean, people do that all the time personally.
Right.
But it's not something that the states are like advertising, like, oh, it's this. It's not. It's kind of a gray area. So there's some low gray areas there that we're still having to pay attention to.
I think that might have something to do with also the business of it, because transporting it from state to state mean that you could take the business from out of one state into another state.
Exactly. And I was told this thing that, like, usually when we see things pop off, somebody didn't get paid. That's all that means.
Probably.
And then back to that thing you were talking about. Peter Tosh said it long ago. Lawyers, doctors, judges, they all consume it. Since we were children, we were hearing that. Now, they're all like, oh yeah, I smoke. Oh, you? I have to tell you, when I went to Colorado and those first legalization sessions, we would go up there all the time because we were like, oh, let's go check it out. And I tell you, the people that I would see walk to the dispensaries and recreational store, if you saw that person just out in society, you could never know that person consumes cannabis. And that's speaking to what you're talking about, that there's all these, we call them closet consumers.
Oh yeah.
Like sometimes the only way you'll see them if you got invited to some function in some upper echelon, and then that's what was going on, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, I see you guys. So more people consume it than not. Something I read recently, it said, when the world engine slows down, Ganja is gonna get out and push. So that's where we are headed.
Wow. Would you consider yourself an advocate for marijuana?
Definitely. 100%. Everywhere I go, I talk about it. My friends get sick of me talking about it. My girl is like, come on, which ones? I can't keep up with the names. She's like, so yes, yes, I am very much an advocate, cannabis advocate to help educate, teach, and educate people on how to produce it cleaner, how to produce it better. Like I'm about to send some specs to a friend in St. Vincent. I'm building a dry room. So I know from start to finish.
I always felt like St. Vincent, like they knew what they were doing with the marijuana and the marijuana business. But now you're educating me a little bit more about people reaching out to you. You know, you have a connection with maybe a few people there or whatever. And how far along are the people there in St. Vincent?
Oh, they're far along. They're ahead of us. Like there's a permit they're waiting for me, and I need to show up and get it. And then I have a small group of people that they told me, hey, show up and we will help you get this permit finalized and pushed through. And you help us set this thing up, and you can come back every so often, and we will work together. So they are. Since since when we were children, we'd always hear about Vincey Redbeard, Vincey Redbeard. Well, what I learned Vincey Redbeard is, it's actually Acapulco Gold that went from Mexico to St. Vincent, and then they picked it up, and it became Vincey Redbeard. But originally, it was Acapulco Gold. So the interesting thing too about cannabis in a whole, if you want to say hemp, sativa, whatever you want to say, that we can pretty much make everything from it. There's hempcrete, there is fiber, there is insulation, there's different types of building materials, there's oils for paint, oils for cars, food, flowers, medicine. We could go on forever, and like Bob said, how is it all these people that tell themselves they got the people's best mind and interest tell you can't touch that thing, but they got everybody's best mind and interest, but you can't touch that. You can touch all these things, but not that one thing. There's more to it than we realize, and like all these wars and all this stuff going on, it's deeper than what they're broadcasting. They've already like played out everybody's. We have to do what we have to do for ourselves, and as a people, we don't even realize how much money we spend in cars, trucks, houses, all these things. And if we could formulate those numbers, we would see how much power we have.
That is absolutely correct. I want to ask you about, St. Vincent. I want to stay on St. Vincent because,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a starting part for you, business wise, probably.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I'm trying to understand the business because, I mean, they're growing weed down there. So you won't have to transport weed from.
No, I'm not transporting it anywhere.
You're pretty much showing a way how to make it grow better. Or, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
Right. Making it grow better, start to finish. And in getting the what I produce goes into the market there. That's where it is for me. It goes into the market there. I get my pay out of it. They get their cut, the taxes, all of that. And I'm like, cool.
How do you acquire a license? Is it a license from the island or a license from somewhere else?
It's a license from the government. It's that thing that we see happening in America. And I don't know how else to say it other than this. Nepotism is everywhere. And we don't like it sometimes. And then sometimes it works in our benefit. So I got this here because I went there and I really gave them some knowledge, like simple things. Like I showed my friend, I said, look, think of how much fish guts they're throwing away from that one fish market every day. I was like, there's all your fertilizer right there. All your fertilizer right there. So the year when I went there and I did what I did, and my friend took my examples, he said all the things he did that I told him to do, that crop finished way faster than all the other crops. And then when he was able to take it to market, everybody was just like, this is so good. What did you do? And he's like, he didn't say it, but he's like, yeah, I just threw some fish guts and some rotten wood, cow manure, and and something that you were talking on earlier. I don't know if you remember Joe Bass. Ali Grant's grandfather.
No, I don't know him. No.
I used to watch Joe Best walk around with 5-gallon buckets picking up cow manure. He would walk from Fitz Village to Prospect, all over the Lazaretta, all over there with these 5-gallon buckets. And I know that you've seen him walk by
Probably, yeah.
us. Yeah, with these
Probably.
5-gallon buckets. Well, I took that example and I got a huge load of cow manure today. I mean, this year, sorry. My garden is out there on fire right now. It's like giants are out there in the garden. Everything is blooming. So what I'm saying, we think we need all this fancy stuff to get things to be successful. We don't, because it all comes from the ancients. And if the ancients can build these pyramids and all this stuff that we still can't figure out how to build, why is it that we better go back there and see what was going on? Yeah, that's where everything comes from.
It's interesting that you say that, because while I was in Barbados, I had some good conversation with a Rasta down there, and meanwhile everybody else is running around trying to make millions of dollars, and he's just interested in growing his crops. He's just interested in everyday food.
Right.
Setting up his garden. He doesn't have a big rent to pay or anything like that. So he's basically just making sure his garden is growing, the crops are growing, the food is being produced. His whole concentration was to feed ourselves, and what we're gonna have to do, because not only being able to feed ourselves, but now we have to deal with the monkeys on the islands, on the island, who are eating the food when you grow it, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, we gotta find a way how we can deal with this stuff. So these guys have low resources in terms of money, but are finding ways to grow crops. They're even talking about greenhouses, which I thought was interesting, because you're living on an island that is surrounded by water. You have sunshine almost every day or every day, but yet our mentality is for the greenhouses, I guess, is to prevent the monkeys from eating the foods, right?
Right. So, and I don't think that that's a bad idea, because then, and not really from the create climate control and all that. Excuse me, but as a barrier, from the monkeys, because we have to do something. And is somebody going to be out there with a shotgun all day and just blasting them all day, and then you just got a bunch of dead monkeys?
Hey, so, that might be manure.
You never know. It's very true. So we're definitely having to come up with some kind of solution where, and I knew some people back there, they'd be like, oh, that whole crop is theirs. I was like, yeah, but you can't tell them to go eat that crop only.
That's exactly it. I hear the same mentality. I hear the same thing. So I'm like, you gotta find a way how to curb those situations, because the monkeys, they don't partial. They just go ahead, they just walk casually and go eat your crops. That's it.
So it means two things.
I need to find a way on the island of Barbados to create a business for the monkeys, because they don't seem to want to get rid of them. So let me find a way how I can figure out these monkeys.
So my two solutions for that is
teach the monkeys how to live in our house.
Is to get Lordy, I should say. My solution is to find some really good breeds of dogs and train them really well and have them on site. That would be one of my solutions.
Because that's good. I think that's a starting point, because I remember what my wife, she was telling me they had like a Rottweiler, and she was so disappointed when she came out one day and saw the monkey just had the dog disciplined. The dog was just quiet. Rottweiler, man.
The other one is to get some robotic dogs. That's the other one. I mean,
I've seen that on sci-fis.
Yeah, like everything that they're showing us already exists. Even more. That's why they're showing us to get us comfortable with it.
Do you feel like you shouldn't give away some of these ideas and you should just kind of maybe work towards it? Maybe we should put some resources together and maybe come up with a plan, pitch it to some different people. It doesn't have to be Barbados. Just pitch it and see what happens, because that might be a thing.
Right.
And I bet you somebody might steal this idea right now, and we're here 5 years later saying, look,
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like one of my friends, he's actually the person I consult with for doing irrigation. He's ahead of me. He said he got to the point where he realized, he's like, not that I don't like hard work and stuff like that, but he's like, if I can have those two automated things, they're digging the holes for me and putting up the fence posts, then I can turn and like deal with these other clients and stuff. Meanwhile, I'm still watching them because I have them programmed on my phone. So I get it. People don't want to deal with technology. It's the devil, all that, whatever. I get it. At the same time, it's one thing to use something for the benefits that it provides. It's another thing to exploit it or use it to exploit people. And that's where I am with it.
Honestly, touching on the ideas that we're thinking about, you just brought one great idea up. Do you find that, like, for me personally, like, there's a lot of things that strike me differently, because going back to Barbados and like being down there for 2 months, I find
Okay.
that like it was almost like living there, right? Well, it was living there.
Yeah.
It kind of put me in that state where I'm like everyday survival mode, living, seeing what people are doing things just like regular people that live. I'm not there on vacation, so I'm just absorbing, and I'm doing things that people do every day. So to your point, people are now channeled completely to the supermarkets, and the supermarkets are channeled to importing food versus creating food on the island. And I don't know if it's purposely done or if it's
It
something
is.
that just happens naturally.
It is. It is purposely done.
Because
It's done.
ramen should not be an everyday consumption for little children. Dry ramen.
Right. It's done on purpose because, I mean, here's a good example. Look at what they did to Cuba, right? The embargo, all this stuff. You know that Cuba is one. It might still very well be the biggest producer of organic food, if not just in the Caribbean, worldwide. No, because
I can
of
see
that.
that. I can see that.
So we have to This is something I heard one of those Wayne's brothers says. Sometimes when things seems like a failure, it's just a redirection. But we're just so conditioned that when things don't work out, oh, it failed. Let's just stop. Rather than realize it's a redirection. So look how they stopped importing all the food and all this stuff to Cuba, the cars and all that. And the Cubans were like, okay. And they figured it out. Where now Cuba has all these self-sufficient pumps and running farms and organic producing more than if they were still dependent on the boob from America that they wouldn't. So it it sucks that it has to take sometimes things to be shooken up for people to get it. But I also see that we can shake it up before crisis happen for the people to wake up. And I realize one of the ways to do that is to collaborate with a small group of people, and we put in an infrastructural example where we're not asking the government anything for any help, and we are setting the example. And then when we're done, then we put it in a public space and be like, hey, come and see what we have to offer, and this is what we want to do. So I see that that's the way to go about it.
I think under circumstances and when times get really hard, people find ways of making it better. And
Right.
sometimes we always look at the shiny parts of life. So, for example, the mom and pop shop who might be good for the community sometimes is taken away, and then the big giant supermarkets come in with the foods that come in. They're importing from around the world
Yep.
on big scales. So that's big business. So no longer they're waiting for the little fish, the butchers that locally grow their foods to produce. They're not doing none of that stuff. They're just getting this resources from different parts of the world, and that they're fine with that. And everybody else doesn't eat. Only the big supermarkets, the big superstores, and people seem to be happy with those things.
Well, that's because the convenience has become the poison.
Yes, that's right. It's like Wi-Fi. It's like having Wi-Fi everywhere you go.
Right. You don't get a break. You don't get a break. You think that it's all cool, but they're watching you too. So I think when we can educate people and give them examples of like the power that they have, because the people don't realize the power. Like I just heard some statistic for the amount of money that brown skin Black America brings in. They said that we're like the eighth superpower in the world or something.
Yeah, but
So
how the money is channeled, that's the key part right there.
exactly. So that's what how we're having to educate each other on how and where to put our money, because they make it look real pretty. So yeah, people run for the prettiness, and it's like that thing. When are humans gonna snap and realize that like we're all in the same boat together and we have to work together? Because what's that? We'll win as brothers or die as cowards or something like that. There's these sayings that they talk about where that we have to move together because my success is your success. And when we when we stop separating my success from yours on that level, that's when we'll really like start to work together. But everybody's like, oh, I did it myself, I got it out the dirt myself. We all had to get help from somewhere. Even if it's our mother that helped us got here, we got help from somewhere. So all these people are like, you're self-made. It's a bunch of bull. We all need each other. That
I
Dennis Brown said, no man is an island.
I agree with that. I always said that. I always said it to a bunch of people, and even going back to something that you said earlier about doing some type of physical work, because the younger people seem to think that work is when you have a laptop and your Wi-Fi, and you can just clock in on the laptop and that's work. No, that's fine. That's dandy. I agree with it. You do that too,
Right.
but
Right.
you still have to clean, like you still have to do physical stuff in
Yeah.
life. You just
Yeah.
can't just think you're just gonna be there and things gonna happen for you without you doing any kind of physicality.
Right.
And I think that part is lacking in some of the teaching these days. And I think it's due to our evolution. We're always, we're always growing. We always man is unbelievable because man is always finding ways to do things that we think that we can't do or we wouldn't be able to do. We're always finding something new. So channeling all that information to younger people so that younger people could realize, look, you still got to use your muscles. I mean, we went from riding bikes to just now battery in bikes where we can just
Right. They're
just press
acting
a
like
button.
motorcycles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the direction we're going, and we want to have things faster. So, but I feel like things have to slow down. You touched on that earlier, but when things slow down, marijuana will be there for the push or something like that. So I
Right.
feel
Yeah. When the world engine stops, ganja's
yeah,
gonna get out and push. Yeah.
yeah. So I feel like things may have to slow down a bit. For people just to understand,
Right.
settle
Right.
down a bit. Look at life
Right.
on a slower pace. Maybe even though we want things faster.
Right. I saw this thing where it says strong men make weak men make strong men. Because
Interesting.
if we don't lead a good example, that's how they become weak, because we do everything for them. We give them everything, we do everything for them, and then when they actually get all the resources and all the power in their hand, they don't know how to do anything. So then they have to go ask other people, so they become weak, and in that, by the next generation off of them realize like, oh no, we're not gonna be like that, and then that creates strong men. So we have to be very mindful and very intentional how we are teaching what we are teaching, because we could all hear the same thing but receive it different. And then there's the people that you're talking to them, they're listening but they're not hearing you.
I want to ask you about where you're at right now, and do you speak the same way you speak to people who doesn't even look like you?
Everywhere I go.
You say you send the same message. How is it received? How is it embraced or not embraced? And is there pushback in some of the messages that you send?
Well, there's always going to be pushback. And the interesting that I learned, you never really realize the impact you have on someone unless they tell you, or unless they share that experience with one of their friends and they come and tell you. So it doesn't matter where I go, I'm going to chant this fire no matter where I go. And interestingly enough, I have had some feedback where people have told me things that I shared with them got them thinking and inspired them, and also encouraged them to do things a little bit different in their life. So for me, like I said, I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. I'm here to remind people of the power that they have inside themselves. So that's what I'm here for. And by getting the knowledge and the wisdom that I have and the ability to do this, that's what I'm here for. I'm a vessel. It's not like, I think I'm more than anybody else. Nothing to do with any of that. Because we're all on the same level. I'll get out there and dig the ditches and plant the trees and do it just like anybody else. And for me, it's really important to leave an example. What's that saying? When you go and you rent a house or you rent a space, leave it better than you found it. So that's where I'm coming from.
Do you feel a way also about like you giving out information? Do you think that that affects what you're doing? You know, people are very good at just kind of listening and taking the ideas and going with it, right? And not including you.
Okay, why I'm not worried about it? Because it's a vibe thing, right? I can give 20 different people the same plants and tell them grow those 20 plants. Each of those plants are going to come back different. The other part about it, if I'm empowered, if you're empowered, if your neighbor is empowered, if the whole community is empowered, less likely for people to steal, cheat, rob, cheat on each other, all of these things from each other. So that is my thing about it. If we can empower each other because we're being so disempowered, that's why people kind of like have this like side eye slant thing. The other thing too, and I will say, His Majesty says, wisdom does not become knowledge unless it's shared, and then it becomes power because that's empowering. So if I have all this knowledge and this wisdom inside of me and I don't share it with anybody, it doesn't do anything because I could have all this wisdom in me, and if I'm just walking around with it and I'm not trying to empower people around me or encourage, it's not doing anything. So it's just as detrimental to hold on to it as it potentially is to share it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've always felt that way until I find myself in situations where I'm trying to help or give information, but yet people kind of exclude me because they've already taken what they wanted from me. But what that does for me is that tells me, you know what, those are the people that I don't need to work with. I need to
Right.
work with other sets of people who will be willing to take that same information that others are willing to steal and realize that where the information is coming from, right? You got to figure
Right.
out the source. Right?
Exactly. And for me, something that confirms is that I'm on the right path. Because if I wasn't on the right path, you wouldn't feel the need to try to steal my information and run with it.
That's right. That's right.
So that
That's
shows
right.
me that I'm on the right path. And I kind of want to show you the garden. So
They're allowed 4 plants here in Toronto.
yeah. So look at this garden.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And of course, they're gonna grow vegetables. A bunch of amaranth, they're gonna turn into flour, and then some
Oh man,
corn.
that's a beautiful plant right there.
This one here, or that one?
That one, yes.
That is wedding cake to oil spills. This one here was a volunteer, meaning I threw a bunch of beans out early in the year, and this one came up on its own.
Does that give you a proud type of feeling when you grow those kind of plants?
Yeah, it does.
You don't have to worry about obviously someone stealing your stuff because they can grow their own too, right?
Right, and there's always still those people, but that's why we have a fence inside of a fence.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So we got 2 skunks here. Jawa pie to oil spills, Dante's Inferno, sage, blackberry soda. That's the wedding cake to oil spills. That's dosi to Josh the OG. And these 2 are super boof. This one and that one. And then that one is Dobos Triangle.
Now, do you have well, obviously it gets cold down there, so you only have a certain amount of time to grow your crops, right?
Right, October. October is between the 7th and the 10th of October. That's the cutoff.
I see. So you still have a fair amount of time, and that, I guess the good weather starts in probably what, like April or May?
Yeah, May. Yeah.
June, July, August, September, October. So you basically got 5 months.
Yep.
And all this happens in 5 months. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I always try to start them a little bit ahead of time and then climatize them and then put them outside.
They look good, man.
Thank you. And that's all my work. I do this all by myself.
I definitely now see how your information and knowledge will be needed, in different islands, in different places.
Yeah, because because we can use it to produce food too. I mean, amaranth, the purple thing, amaranth, you can turn it into flour and make bread with it. Yeah, it's a good
How do you
healthy
make
food.
bread with that, with the flour?
So
You
when
say
your flour
flour or the
get
flour? The flour or a flour?
with this here,
Okay.
and when this gets ripe, it shoots out a bunch of, like you can see one there, like these little different colors, and it shows you that it's ripe. You cut that off, and then you put it into like a seed separator. Like you rub it in brown paper bags against each other, and then you get a fan and blow it. You put the brown paper bag stuff in a bucket, and then you get a fan and blow at the bucket slightly, and it blows out all the lighter stuff, and it leaves the heavier stuff, which is the seeds. And then you can use the seeds to make bread, flours, different things like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. You
So
do it
I
all by
wish.
yourself?
Pardon me?
All by yourself?
Yeah, all of this I do by myself.
How much time do you put into that in a day?
Sometimes 3, 4 hours, sometimes a couple hours. Like today, I just came out and watered, and then later this evening, I'm gonna do some pruning. Cause let me show you something. Okay, so you see how this one looks? How there's a lot of space in here. We wanna do that in here to let more light in and less probability of disease and bugs and stuff. So I'm gonna come and clean that all out again, and I've cleaned them out like 4 or 5 times already.
I'm very impressed with the plants, dude. Those are pretty nice.
And then I'm taking the same knowledge down the road to St. Vincent to show them, because down there we're in a 12-12 cycle, meaning the plants grow, and once they hit a certain height, they start flowering. So
Oh,
to expand upon that, I have some strategies that I will keep at this point.
yeah. You're not gonna share that.